Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome to Life in the Movies podcast with Ryan and Jacob. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Ryan Cam. Thank you so much for tuning in. This week, Jacob and I are going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett and just everything having to do with that, and reacting to the new trailer for Jurassic World Dominion. Again, lot to unpack with both of those items. But before we go any further, I want to introduce my co-host. He's the man. He's Jacob Martin. Jacob, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ryan. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's been pretty fun the past couple weeks, trying to watch as many movies as possible, get through some of the hurdles of life, and just having a good time with it. I hope things are going well over on your end.
Yeah, everything's going very solid right now. We're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday, which I'm fulfilling my football quota for the year, and I'm gonna watch that probably for the trailers that are going to be happening. But I have no dog in that particular fight. I just hope it's a good game. I like football games where it's like 21 to like 19 or something like that. I like them close. I don't like blowouts because I remember I used to work at my local movie theater, and I was working Super Bowl Sunday. And it was between the Patriots and I can't remember the other team. I want to say the Eagles, but I'm not sure. It's not, I don't think it's that one, but it was the Patriots and the other team. Let's just say that. It was boring. I remember no one was at the theater, so it was just my manager and myself and the concessions guy, and we were just watching it on his phone, and it was just like, it was a fate worse than death. And the memes were more entertaining than the game itself because everyone was like, come on, do something. So I don't know, Jacob, if you're going to be watching or if you're a football fan at all. I know you said you're not really into sports.
Yeah, I'm not really into sports. I've watched Super Bowls in the past just for the commercials. Now I just only care about the movie ads. And a lot of the movie ads will just drop on YouTube the next day anyway. So I'll probably just do my own thing and just react and watch some of the Super Bowl movie ads and some of the other ads that people tend to rave about the next day and just do my own thing. But yeah, it's always interesting. I think I actually did watch that game you were talking about with the Patriots. That was like the dullest game I had ever seen in my life. I think there was one year I used to work as a delivery driver at Pizza Hut one year, and I delivered on Super Bowl Sunday, and we were swamped with deliveries because they wanted pizza and wings for the big game. And I felt like I didn't miss anything related to the Super Bowl because one, the TV was on in the restaurant, and two, I would go to people's houses and they'd be watching the Super Bowl, and I'd keep track of all the scores. So that was kind of an interesting year doing learning about the Super Bowl and who was winning and all that. That was an interesting year for sure.
Yeah, snack food companies' Christmas Day is definitely Super Bowl Sunday. That is for certain.
Yeah.
So like I said, I hope the game is interesting. This will be coming out Wednesday, so insert whoever won the game. They certainly deserved it here. Like blurb into there, and well, let's talk about some stuff that we've been watching lately, Jacob. I've noticed on your channel the adventures or misadventures of Alfred Hitchcock's early career continue in earnest. There was this one I want to try and read this title here, or if maybe you remember it, but it was the weirdest, like, something Paycock, or I don't know what it's
Juno and the Paycock is
there
the
it
name
is. There.
of that movie. We're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday. I think the video's actually dropping the Wednesday, I think, is when it's supposed to drop. But
Yep.
That is an interesting movie, and not in a good way. That is the biggest letdown I have ever seen Alfred Hitchcock do. It's set during, I think, some political turmoil in Ireland. And so I'm not too familiar with Irish history. So whatever commentary was being shared in that movie, it just kind of fell through the cracks for me. I'm just like, I am not interested in this story. There's a family drama going on, and it's pretty much the most one-note group of people debating in a house, talking, laughing, singing about their wealth, and it is just the dullest thing I've ever seen Hitchcock do in my life. It didn't even feel like a Hitchcock movie either, because we all know Hitchcock as, oh, he's the master of suspense. Well, there's one suspenseful sequence at the beginning, which involved the guy being gunned down at a rally. Again, I'm not too familiar with Irish history. I don't know if this is based on true events or this is a fictional story, but that sequence was kind of interesting, and then the rest, it just fell apart from there. I did not enjoy this movie. It's easily the worst Hitchcock film that I've covered in this director project that I'm currently going on. I'm just waiting on the good Hitchcock. I'm just ready for him to leave England, move to Hollywood, and make all those great films that we know him for.
Yeah, it seems like it was one of those where it's like Hitchcock was always great. Are you sure about that?
Yeah, his early films are rough. There's a couple of hidden gems, but it's mostly pretty rough. I have a feeling he didn't get really good until he left his home, moved to Hollywood, and really started to hone in his craft. When he started doing like Rebecca and then Shadow of a Doubt and Foreign Correspondent, and then later moving into the 50s, and where he had all those amazing movies like Rear Window, Vertigo, North by Northwest, and Psycho. I think it took a while for Hitchcock to become the director that we know him best for.
Yeah, I guess it's weirdly motivational because we know Alfred Hitchcock is one of the greatest of all time, and he is, but there was a long way to go before he got there. So if there's anyone watching who's feeling down on themselves right now, keep in mind Alfred Hitchcock made weird silent movies long before the Notorious days and the Foreign Correspondent days.
1925 was when that first movie he did came out, which was The Pleasure Garden.
Gotcha. So nothing happens overnight. When someone's an overnight sensation, they've been secretly been grinding for years and years and years, just waiting for their moment.
Yep, it's definitely interesting seeing that early start. That's for sure. Considering this is the era I'm least familiar with, and before diving into these early films, the only one of his like British films I had seen was the 39 Steps, and that movie's actually pretty solid. It was actually kind of like Hitchcock's precursor to North by Northwest, which is about an innocent man on the run accused of something he never did. And that was a solid little early outing from him, and I'm actually excited to revisit that one in a few months from now. But yeah, some of these early movies are just not that good, and this is the absolute worst. I gave it, if you look at it when the video drops, or if you look at my letterbox, I gave it half a star out of 5. It's that awful of a movie. I struggled to get into it. You know the movie's bad. I said this in my video as well. Normally, if it's a movie I've never seen before, I try to watch it distraction free as possible. So I don't try to look up my phone or go on the internet, look at Twitter or Facebook messages and stuff like that. I just try to watch the movie and try to get invested in it. This movie was so boring that I could still look at my phone, look at the laptop, go through my Facebook updates and messages and stuff and Twitter and all that, and not miss a thing. It was that boring of a movie. And I normally don't like doing any multitasking in movies, but this one was rough.
Yeah, 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, I saw this movie called Stuber. It starred Dave Bautista and Kumail Nanjiani. It's bad, don't watch it. But it was so boring and by the numbers that I was in the theater and I said to myself, you know what? If I went to the bathroom and got a drink of water and I come back and I know what's going to happen, then this movie's officially bad. And so I picked a moment. I said, okay, this is going to happen when I come back. And I get up, walk out of the theater, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water at the water fountain, and then I go back, and the thing that I said would happen actually happened. Now, I'm not some galaxy brain screenwriter. I'm not like that. I'm not trying to be like, oh, look at how smart I am. No, but it was one of those things where I was like, I bet you this thing's gonna happen. And it did. And it was equally soul crushing and also funny at the same time. That I was like, call me Nostradamus because I called that.
Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, what else have you been seeing?
All right, I'm gonna go through some of my recent stuff on here. I did recently revisit Lilo and Stitch, which that was a blast from my childhood. That was like the first Disney movie I think I ever saw in theaters back in the day. It was me and a former friend that I had in my elementary school years. We went with his grandmother, and we saw that at the local dollar theater. And I'll never forget this because on the way to the theater, when we saw Lilo and Stitch, on the way, we were hearing music from an artist you may have heard of, a little known indie artist known as Elvis Presley. And that was the first time I had ever heard the guy's music, was going to the movies with my friend. I had never heard this guy before. I heard some of his songs. I'm like, this guy's pretty cool. And then sure enough, there were Elvis songs sprinkled throughout the soundtrack of Lilo and Stitch. And I'm like, man, this Elvis guy's awesome. And then I ended up becoming an Elvis fan after seeing Lilo and Stitch and being on this adventure with me and my former friend that I had. And I have an appreciation for Lilo and Stitch this very day because of that. It's also one, as a kid, you watch the film and you see, oh, the funny antics with Lilo and Stitch and some of the wild antics that Stitch does. You're like, oh, this is like a fun, harmless kids comedy. And then the more and more you sit and dissect, and you're like, this is one of the saddest Disney movies I've ever seen, dealing with Lilo and losing her parents, being raised by her older sister, and then there's the threat that the sisters are going to be separated by the social worker because of that environment. And I'm like, how did I not pick up on this at a young age? This is one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my life, but it's still a great movie. I actually respect the movie more now because of the sisterly family themes that they have in the film mixed with the outlandish sci-fi elements with Stitch and all the other alien creatures in the film. Disney went through a rough patch throughout the 2000s after the Renaissance. They definitely had some not so great Disney classics. I mean, you can look at Home on the Range and Chicken Little, which that last film is absolute awful trash. I hate Chicken Little with a fiery passion. I can't get through that one, even though I liked it as a kid, not now. But Lilo and Stitch was like one of the rare movies to where it felt like classic Disney with a fresh spin. And it's one that I feel like is a little under the radar now than it was 20 years ago, because Lilo and Stitch was everywhere when I was a kid. Now it's just seen as a random Disney film. And that's a shame because I like the messages, I like the characters, I love the 2D animation. I miss this style of 2D animation, and I enjoyed the heart that it does have. And I find it fascinating that the directors who did Lilo and Stitch, Chris Sanders and Dean Dubois, this was their only big movie at Disney that they directed. They later went to DreamWorks, worked on movies such as How to Train Your Dragon and The Croods. And it's really impressive that even though when things don't go well in one studio, you can find bigger success somewhere else and still make incredible movies regardless of where you're actually working at. So it's a pretty good success story right there. And even the designs for Stitch and Toothless look incredibly similar between the two. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, Ryan. Like Stitch and Toothless could be like distant cousins or something, and it's a neat little thing to see.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I never thought about that comparison before, but now that I have, it's like similar stories if you really think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. The kind of like the boy and his dog type story, or girl and his dog in the case of Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, Lilo and Stitch is definitely better than you all remember. That's for certain.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. That and Treasure Planet were like the two best movies from that era, like
Oh yeah,
animation
Treasure
wise.
Planet. You're speaking my language there. That's one of my favorite Disney movies ever. Period.
Yeah, that one. I've always been a fan of that one since it came out, and it's one that's resonated with me more years later, much like Lilo and Stitch. And Disney, even though this was not the best era, they had some hidden gems. I love Treasure Planet. I'm a fan of Brother Bear, The Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis: The Lost Empire. There's even stuff I actually do enjoy even in Home on the Range, even though it's not the most beloved Disney movie or anything. It's definitely not a great movie, but I always enjoyed it, and I never really understood the hate for that one. I always found a lot of fun in that movie.
Yeah, the early 2000s. I mean, Disney coming off the Renaissance, they were going to be looked at as a downgrade because they were just going from strength to strength on everything they were doing. So anything after that was automatically going to be given the side eye. But I think with the power of hindsight, I think these movies are starting to get a little more respect, and I'm all for it. I really am.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. All right, and then going into my Sony series, I've it's weird that I'm watching this in February, considering it's a Christmas movie, but it's part of my Sony Pictures Animation watch through. I rewatched R for Christmas in the middle of February.
I love
And
this movie.
I love that one as well. What's funny is when it came out, I didn't think much of it. I just thought it was your average Christmas movie, no more, no less. So at the time, I just thought the film was eh. But the more I've gone back on this movie, the more how secretly brilliant it is. Especially how it dives into like Christmas in a nutshell. How the characters, the Santa Clauses and or for Christmas treat it more like a business operation like Amazon. I feel like that's the commercialization of that's gotten more and more relevant as the years going on, especially how bigger and bigger Amazon gets. And the whole message of R for Christmas just feels more, I guess, relevant now because of Arthur's determination to deliver this package, no matter the cost, no matter the opposition that he has with his family and the other characters in the movie. Arthur's spirit is what saves the day in the end, and I really respect the message mixed with the brilliant Aardman humor that is in the film. This is one that's gotten better and better for me over time, and it's one of the more underrated Aardman films, in my opinion. I don't really see too many people talking about this one. It's really, really good.
Yeah. Outside of probably Chicken Run and definitely Wallace and Gromit, Aardman has a lot of really solid animated movies that people are like, what was that again? That was a thing. Like Early Man springs to mind. Flushed Away is one that I really liked. But yeah, I even forget myself sometimes that Aardman and DreamWorks were kind of tag teaming on Arthur Christmas, and it really is fantastic. It's funny that you bring up the Amazon like side of things because when I was watching this in the theaters, I remember thinking to myself, well, that's kind of super callous, but that's kind of what it's almost become. It's sad, but it's also true. It's scarily relevant. That's all I will say.
Yeah, it's kind of become ahead of its time in a lot of regards. Because when I first saw Arthur Christmas, when we got to the Santa Claus flying in the UFO and elves dropping off and delivering presents, I was like, this is Aardman copying what Disney first did with the Prep and Landing special. And I'm like, what is this? And now I feel like Aardman not only took Disney's original premise, I thought they made it funnier and maybe more relevant to where things have gotten. I'm like, I got to commend Aardman for doing this movie.
Santa's only real job there is just to eat the cookie. Like that's pretty much all he does.
And
Everything
go,
else
ho,
is
ho, ho.
yeah, and pretty much everything is quarterbacked by his other son. I can't remember He's voiced by Alec Baldwin. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
Uh, no, wait. Alec Baldwin did Rise of the Guardians. You're thinking of that movie. Hugh Grant was the
Oh yeah,
son, or Hugh Grant or Hugh Laurie, one of those two. I think it was Hugh Laurie.
yeah. There you go. That is correct.
Yeah, the movie is a lot of fun. I don't watch it every Christmas, but every time I do revisit it, I'm like, this movie is funnier and smarter than I remember it being. And this film needs to be a Christmas classic. I don't know why it isn't, especially here in the States. I don't know how it is in the UK because Aardman is super beloved in the UK. Like, they're some of the most celebrated animated movies over there. But for some reason here, they just don't get the same love. And I'm hoping, I know Aardman has a deal with Netflix now, and they've released several movies on Netflix already, like the Farmageddon, Shaun the Sheep sequel, for instance. And they're going to do like a new Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run sequel on Netflix as well. So I'm hoping Aardman finds more of an audience through the Netflix deal. But for now, I wish this movie just was more beloved. I wish I gave it more of a chance back then. Now I love it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm so happy that Netflix and Aardman have a deal together because at least with Netflix, Aardman has the ability to present their wares in front of hundreds of millions of subscribers to potentially like see it, because in theaters it's really up to like your marketing. It's up to just how well you get it in front of the eyeballs of others. But with Netflix, you already pay a monthly fee and it's already there, so it's pretty much gift wrapped for them. I like the spirit of that, and hopefully Netflix has a hand in giving Aardman a little bit more of a boost, because Aardman, Aardman and Leica Studios are two excuse me, they're two animation like sleeper hits in terms of studios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are both fantastic studios that deserve more attention. You were saying how some theaters struggle to market the Aardman films. I had a similar experience like that. Me and my sister, when Early Man came out, we went and saw that on the big screen. And I think it came out during bad timing too, because it came out like a week, I think, after Marvel had their big smash with Black Panther. And we saw that movie already. And so we decided to see Early Man. We were the only two people who saw Early Man at this screening. We both enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite Aardman movie, but it was still a fun film. And then I remember the movie let out. My sister and I walked out, and I think the Black Panther showing must have ended at the same time because a bunch of people went out of the Black Panther showing, and I was just like, this is sad. As much as I love Marvel, as much as I love Black Panther, that's an amazing movie. I mean, Aardman needs some love too. Come on now. These are the same guys who did Chicken Run. I know you love Chicken Run. It was really saddening to see.
Yeah, sadly, whatever they put on the week after Black Panther, you might as well have titled that movie DOA, because it was going to be just dead on arrival. And it's not to discount Black Panther. Black Panther is fantastic, but it just Black Panther was so good that for a few weeks, whatever was coming out was automatically handicapped. That's just how it works, because as soon as you put a Marvel movie in there, it's just like everybody's in there, or DC, hopefully with the Batman, because that movie looks fantastic. And DC, recently they released their The World Needs Heroes trailer, and God, I hope DC like finally pulls it together and delivers some quality this year, because they've bought people's love with the Snyder Cut, so here's to hoping.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to all of the DC films, even the ones I'm not as big on just yet. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of Aquaman, but I'm still intrigued to see the Aquaman sequel. But I'm definitely more excited to see the Batman, the Flash, and Black Adam, which looks really interesting. The more footage I've seen from it.
Yeah, Black Adam is the one that I'm least familiar with. However, I love The Rock. As a wrestling fan, like seeing The Rock, a former wrestler, be like the highest grossing movie star going today, it makes me very happy. That's all I'm saying. And I've seen him in interviews. The dude is like one of the nicest people you could ever hope to meet.
Yeah, I enjoy The Rock as well. Let's see. Speaking of Marvel, for Superhero Saturdays, I did revisit Black Panther for the
Oh,
series,
there you go.
and what more needs to be said? It's one of my favorite MCU films of all time. It's in my top 3. I think it's fantastic. I love the world building of Wakanda. I love that even though this is an MCU film, it feels more like a standalone story. Like you can take any other movie out of the MCU and just watch Black Panther and just enjoy it as its own thing. And that's what I respect the most about the movie and what Ryan Coogler did in telling and crafting the story. Of course, Chadwick Boseman, may he rest in peace, fantastic as T'Challa. I cannot picture any other actor playing this character because he played the character so well. And I love the ensemble cast, whether Angela Bassett or Lupita Nyong'o or Letitia Wright. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger was phenomenal. One of the best villains in the entire MCU. I like how they explored his character, how they explored every wrong that his character faced. You can completely see where he was coming from and still see the darkness and bitterness within his character. It was one of the best balanced, complex characters I've ever seen in a Marvel movie. And the confrontation between the two was fantastic because of the gravitas of the two actors. Yeah, I get people don't like some of the CGI in the third act. I will admit the CGI, especially with the two Black Panther suits fighting underground, that CGI is not the best, but it didn't take me out of the movie because I was emotionally invested in the narrative. And sometimes I can overlook dodgy effects if I'm invested in the storytelling. And Black Panther is definitely one of those movies for me. I think it's a fantastic film, one of my personal favorites in the entire MCU.
Yeah, there is still a scheduled sequel, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, I believe it was called. That's supposed to come out a little later this year. And I'm torn because Chadwick Boseman is Black Panther. You can recast him, don't, but they could do it. But it's like you're forever going to be like compared to Chadwick Boseman, who just knocked it out of the ballpark on the first try. And of course he was in Infinity War and Endgame, and he was good in there too. But in the standalone Black Panther movie, he was excellent. So I don't know how I feel about a Black Panther sequel. It would be nice to go back to the world, and I mean, Black Panther made $1 billion, so they would be dumb not to. However, you got to address the question of what to do now that T'Challa is no longer in the picture. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I've heard rumors that they're going to make it about T'Challa's sister, who I am blanking on currently right now. She's played by
Shuri's the name of the character. The actress is Letitia Wright.
Thank you. I knew it was Letitia Wright. I was just blanking on her name. But due to recent comments made by her, that is also up in the air. So I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm holding out for a trailer. When they release a trailer, I will make my definitive thoughts at that time. But anyway, Black Panther 1 is of course excellent. I mean, it brought a lot of people together and made a lot of people very happy. That's all I will say.
Yeah, that movie was so good. I saw so many people from different walks of life in the movie theater that I saw the film, whether you're black or you're white or anything in between. Everyone I know loves the movie. It was a great reaction in the theater, and I'll never forget that experience. It was one of my favorite theatrical experience of any MCU film. It was that good. And regarding the sequel, I am nervous on the movie as well. I have no idea where they're going to go with this. I've even seen some do the hashtag recast T'Challa. I don't know what to think about that because Chadwick played the character so well, and it'd be hard to do a recast at this point. I'm also unsure how they're going to handle the Black Panther mantle, because you can do so many other characters with the Black Panther lore, whether Shuri or the character M'Baku, played by Winston Duke, I think would be a good choice as well. Or the character, I think her name's Nakia, whatever the Lupita's character is. There's so much potential you could do with that, but at the same time, you're like, it's not going to be the same without T'Challa. What Chadwick Boseman did to the role so well. I'm still going to see the movie. I think it'll be done in the utmost respect, especially for Chadwick, but it's definitely going to be a nervous experience because I have no idea what they're going to do with this one.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now, and there are definitely other variants of Black Panther. There's this one named Casper Cole, who sounds interesting. Then there is, of course, Shuri, but I don't know. It just feels like they got it right the first time, and now that Chadwick Boseman is sadly no longer with us, it feels like whoever is going to be recast, if they do recast him, is going to be unfairly compared to someone who is widely respected. So, like I said, I'll wait for a trailer. If it looks good, I'll say it looks good, but I'll hold my extended thoughts until that time.
All right. And then there's, I think, 2 others I'm going to share on this. I revisited The Matrix Reloaded. That video is going to drop later this week as well. This is the first time I've seen any Matrix sequels in several years, because I've revisited The Matrix plenty of times. But I never revisited Matrix 2 or 3 because I remember being so disappointed in them. Well, rewatching Matrix Reloaded, I was surprised at how good of a movie it actually is. Like, there's a lot of aspects that I'm like, there's certain aspects of the movie that are just as good as the original Matrix. Like, I like that we actually got to see Zion, which we never saw in the first movie. I liked that we actually got to see an expansion of the world outside of the Matrix, which I thought was pretty cool. I enjoyed seeing some new additions to the story and characters. Like, I like characters like Nairobi, played by Jada Pinkett Smith. I thought she was a great addition to the films. I enjoyed seeing more of Neo and Trinity and Morpheus, and especially Agent Smith. Like, Agent Smith, like, being a virus to the Matrix and infecting anyone he touches was a brilliant idea after his character's fate at the end of the first movie. The action sequences, some of which I would say might be better than the scenes in the first movie. There's some really amazing set pieces in this movie, like the highway chase. That extended chase was incredible. And even, I know people make fun of some of the CGI now, but I mean, it's 2003. They did the best they could do. But the fight with Neo and the Agent Smith clones is one of the coolest action scenes I've ever seen in my life. I was just so blown away by the stunt work, the visual effects, the score. That was a really awesome sequence that I forgot how awesome it was. I love 2/3 of The Matrix Reloaded, but what loses me is the third act. The third act of Reloaded, I cannot stand. The stuff with the architect and his like pretentious monologue about, I have no idea what the heck that guy even said, but I was just like, oh, Wachowskis, you got me, you got me good. I enjoyed the setup of the Matrix, but you went too far with the philosophical stuff there. And I don't like how it ends. I don't like the cliffhanger, because the cliffhanger just felt forced to set up another movie. And it's one of those where it's like, if characters made smarter decisions, you would have ended the movie right there. And that's what frustrates me the most about Reloaded, because I love 2/3 of the movie is great, but the last third is, and it brings it to a halt. That's what hurts this movie for me.
You cannot convince me otherwise, but I know for a fact, like, I believe that the Wachowskis never planned on making sequels to The Matrix. They made their one and was like, put all of our creative energies into this one. They did not expect it to do as well as it did. And when The Matrix became the biggest thing of 1999 in a year full of big things, the studio was like, hey, name your price. And they were like, Okay. And so they just brought all of their experiments to the table. And I don't hate The Matrix Reloaded. I'm kind of similar to you, Jacob. I think the highway scene is incredible. They actually built a mock highway to do it on, and I will have nothing but respect for the Wachowskis for doing that. Say what you want to about them, but they are committed to like the things that they do. I love that. But I did not like the Zion stuff. I thought it was overly long. I thought it was just Morpheus bickering at the council for like extended periods of time. I'm like, guys, come on. You're literally being hunted by machines. Like, put aside your egos and like figure out something. Like, stop being so petty. And the architect stuff, I don't hate, but it just feels like the Wachowskis are just stepping a toe out beyond and they're trying to answer questions that none of us really wanted to know the answers to. And so I'm not as big a fan as that. I don't hate Matrix Reloaded, but it was definitely the sign of, okay, maybe these Wachowskis are not as good as we thought they were going to be.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't agree more with that. I would still give Matrix Reloaded a positive grade overall because I still highly enjoyed 2/3 of the movie. It's just, it could have been so much more. And that's what frustrates me the most about the movie. And then, actually, last night I saw this. My sister and I went to the movies and we saw Death on the Nile in theaters. That's the last movie I'm going to share on this podcast. And considering I wasn't the biggest fan of Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express, I felt like the old 1970s film was the much better film. That was directed by Sidney Lumet, the same mind behind 12 Angry Men, and that original movie is excellent if you hadn't seen it. Death on the Nile, I actually enjoyed a lot more. Like, I think it's because I was not familiar with this story compared to Murder on the Orient Express, and I came into it with a fresh face. I actually enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the mystery. It has a slow beginning, but I thought it was done intentionally to set up the murder and to set up the mystery, and I enjoyed the cast. I enjoyed the characters that we do follow. So the slow first act didn't bother me. My only real issue with the film, I would say, was the final twist. I thought was a little predictable. Like, I could predict where it was going once the murder happened. I'm like, okay, I think I know who it is. And there was a little bit of surprise in there, I will admit, as the twist is revealed, but I knew right away who the bad person was, and that was the biggest frustration I had. I have nothing against the execution of the twist. I thought it was a well-crafted scene with great tension, but I was a little disappointed that I figured out what a good chunk of the twist was going to be. But I did enjoy myself. I did have a great time. I enjoyed the direction. I love the cinematography in this movie. The location of Egypt and the Nile River was beautiful to look at. And I enjoyed the extended cast. Kenneth Branagh was awesome. I enjoyed seeing Gal Gadot in this movie. I was surprised at how good Russell Brand was in this movie. Like, you're used to seeing him as like the comical, obnoxious doofus, and he played a serious character, and I respect that. And I enjoyed the extended cast along the way. So many great performances in this movie. I enjoyed the overall mystery, and I hope Branagh gets to make more stories adapted from the Poirot character from Agatha Christie, because there's so much you can do, even stories that aren't as familiar as Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile. If Death on the Nile does well, I hope we can see more movies in this universe made by Kenneth Branagh, because I thought he stepped up his game in this sequel. I don't know, Ryan, if you've seen the film or not, but I thought the film was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have a review of it up on the channel, hopefully by the time this airs. But yeah, I do agree with you. The first act I thought was a little clumsy. I didn't really need to know why Hercule Poirot grew out his mustache. I mean, it was just a question that I really didn't need to know the answer to. but I thought it was incredibly well acted. I echo your points about Russell Brand. Up to this point, Russell Brand has been kind of like the, hi guys, like the bouncy, like the over-the-top English bloke, if you will. He's completely unrecognizable here as this doctor character. Like, if this is what Russell Brand's going to do from now on, I hope he does more of it. I'd love to see it. I'm just happy this movie got released because this was one of the ones due to COVID. It got delayed and delayed again and delayed some more. And I was just like, God, for the sake of the crew who worked hard on this, just please release it. And now it has been released. I'm very happy for the people who worked on it that it is now officially out, because I've read enough about movies like Superman Lives, like the Kevin Smith Superman movie that I was working on, and Batman Continues, which I'll talk about Batman in just a second, about movies that never got off the ground. And I've worked on TV productions on a local level, and just when you get something on the air, no matter how good or bad it really is satisfying, because it's like, okay, I worked so hard on this, it's out, finally. And so whenever something doesn't come out, it's like, it's the worst. So I'm just at least glad that the movie is now out for everyone to see.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like, especially with the movies that were delayed the most since COVID happened, I feel like we need to see these movies to give the creatives and the actors and the visual artists and all those people the utmost love and respect for, getting this movie made, and, just having to wait for the movie to finally come out after so many delays. It was a treat seeing it on the big screen. Even if it wasn't the best movie, it was still a fun time, and I would definitely revisit this one several more times. I did have a blast with this one.
Very good. Well, as far as stuff that I've been watching, it's primarily Batman focused, because I've been doing my Batman series here on the channel. Rewatched Batman 89. I loved it. That movie is so much fun. I give Tim Burton all the credit in the world for what he did there. Watched for the first time Batman Returns, which I respected more for Tim Burton and what he decided to do, considering that Warner Brothers was like, all right, Tim, thank you for making all this money for us. Here are the reins. You do your thing. And it was what it was. It was definitely over the top and definitely a lot darker, but I respect that Tim was like, all right, I'm just going to do me. McDonald's pretty much killed the movie and pretty much any chances of him doing anything in the future, but I give him credit for the guts that he showed in some of the choices that he made. Though my ranking is definitely Batman 89 over Batman Returns. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do really like both of those Tim Burton Batman films. My hot take, I've always preferred Returns over 89, as unpopular of an opinion that is. I enjoy 89, yes, and there's a lot of things I do really like about it. Jack Nicholson is the Joker. I enjoy the set design. Keaton's great. I just feel like the story is a little bit out of focus at times, and I didn't get into it as much as I did with Returns. I felt like with Returns, with Burton having more creative control, I felt like he was able to explore a lot more with the characters, and I respect what he was going for more in the sequel than I did with the first movie, even though I think of the two movies, Jack Nicholson's Joker is the better villain. But, hey, you got Danny DeVito's Penguin, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, and Christopher Walken in there. Three amazing talents committed to the movie. So that movie was a lot of fun as well. I respect Burton's vision on both movies, and I'm excited to see Keaton reprise his role in the upcoming Flash movie. So those are good ones.
It's going to be nice to see him, because when Keaton pretty much left Batman and when it was just getting good, and then Keaton ended up doing all the stuff, and now it's like everything has come full circle officially, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him.
Yeah, it would have been interesting had Michael Keaton done the third movie they were planning on when Tim Burton was attached, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Burton's version, Robin Williams would have been the Riddler in that. And I would have loved to have seen a darker, unhinged Robin Williams play the Riddler. That would have been amazing if that was the case. I have nothing against Joel Schumacher or Jim Carrey, as I don't hate Batman Forever. That movie's fun too. Not as good as Burton's, but that's still enjoyable for what it is and what Schumacher set out to do. But man, that's a good what if. I would have loved to have seen Burton's third Batman if he had the chance to make it.
Yeah, when I was doing my research for the Returns one, I was like, I would like to include a blurb as to what the third movie might have been. And it would have been called Batman Continues. Keaton would have returned and Robin Williams would have been the Riddler. You hit the nail on the head there. But Robin would have been introduced and he would have played by, brace yourself, folks, Marlon Wayans.
I don't know if I can picture that, but okay.
I don't know how to react to that, but it would have been fascinating to see what would have happened because the Wayans brothers were genuinely popular around this time. Living Color was going on. Damon and Keenan Ivory were getting booked in the stand-up world, and Marlon as well. And Marlon would continue, unfortunately, in some cases, to make movies to this day. So it's not like it may have been striking while the iron was hot. But the most interesting choice would have been the return of Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent, and he would have become Two-Face in the movie. Not gonna lie, I would have loved to have seen that happen.
Oh yeah, a darker version of Lando Calrissian. That would have been awesome.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, Batman Continues is just going to be in the forever what if stack of things. And then I'm going to be rewatching Batman Forever, which is a movie that I've always just never hated. I get why people don't like it. Like Jim Carrey, like God bless him, he took it a little too far, and Tommy Lee Jones looks completely uncomfortable being this, trying to be as over the top as Jim Carrey. But I liked that Joel Schumacher tried to take things in a little more, like trying to explore more of Batman's psyche. It's unfortunate that Batman and Robin muddied those waters, but it would have been interesting to see what would happen there. And before I move on, want to give a bit of a cheap plug. In a couple weeks, I'll be covering Batman and Robin in honor of the Batman, and Jacob is going to be joining me. We're going to suffer through this movie together.
I can't hate Batman and Robin too much. At least, as bad as the movie is, at least you can laugh at it while you're wondering what were they thinking with the choices made in this movie.
No, this is how you say it. What were they thinking?
Yeah, that's a movie, that's for sure.
So I am very much looking forward to that. And I did see Death on the Nile, and my thoughts are definitely echoing your thoughts on that one, Jacob. And then I saw Marry Me, which is in theaters and streaming also on Peacock. I was a little pressed for time, so I ended up streaming it here. And
how was that movie?
It was better than I was thinking it was going to be.
Wow.
I'm not exactly a big rom-com fan. I'm trying to fix that. I'm going to be trying to review When Harry Met Sally for Valentine's Day. Hopefully when this goes up, that review will be up. But I'm trying to see more rom-coms because it's a definitive blind spot in my filmography. So I do want to watch more of that. But Marry Me is definitely an example of a rom-com formula. The couple even splits up in the third act, and there is a chase through the airport, which we've definitely seen before. But J-Lo and Owen Wilson are genuinely nice to see together. They have good chemistry. I wanted to see them succeed, and they do. It's definitely something you've seen before, but it is nice to see. It's nice to see this relationship.
I'll have to give that movie a chance. I was wondering about Marry Me. I was kind of rooting for it too because, like you, Ryan, I'm not the biggest rom-com fans either. When you mentioned the tropes in the genre, even in that movie, I was just kind of rolling my eyes as I'm not a fan of forced breakups in a lot of these movies, and especially like the silly contrived way of how they come back for like ridiculous chases and stuff like that. But I'm intrigued on it because, especially the leads alone, J-Lo and Owen Wilson look like an interesting match, and I definitely enjoy me some Owen Wilson. Him, his Owen Wilsonism, and his wows. So I'm excited to see. I'm intrigued to see this one. Either I don't know if I'll see it in theaters or stream it at home, but I'll definitely give the movie a chance real soon.
So anyway, let's get into the double main event for this podcast: the Book of Boba Fett and Jurassic World Dominion. Let's tackle the Book of Boba Fett first. Now, I had the privilege of being on the Suit Up Geeks podcast and reviewing every single episode as they were released. So if you would like to hear more of my in-depth thoughts, go to their channel. I will link it either here or down below. But this is definitively just a very frustrating show because episodes 1 through 4 are like, they weren't exactly like amazing, but I was like, okay, it's interesting to see what they're going to try and do here. And then 5 through 6, you might as well have just renamed the show The Book of Everyone Else But Boba Fett. It was weird. And then the finale, I actually liked. But I feel like with the show called The Book of Boba Fett, and I got a lot of crap for this when I was reviewing it because I was not a fan of episodes 5 and 6. I should get that out of the way because I was like, it's called The Book of Boba Fett, and yet he's not even in these episodes. You can count the number of scenes that he's in on one hand and have fingers to spare. And people were on me like, you're ignoring the great storytelling over a title. Yeah, I figured in a show called The Book of Boba Fett, I would see some Boba Fett, not everyone else but Boba Fett. I just feel like either Robert Rodriguez or Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau got nervous that they weren't going to be able to fill enough for an entire series or mini-series. So they were like, let's see what The Mandalorian's up to. And while the individual parts in that were good, I like the Darksaber stuff. I love how he kind of gets kicked out of his cult because he took his mask off in season 2, which is nice carrying over there. But in a show called The Book of Boba Fett, you got potentially interesting things like with Boba and the Tuskens, or Boba with the street gang, and trying to go in the straight and narrow. I wanted the seeds, it felt like the seeds were planted, they were watered, they were being shown the sunshine, and like by the end, the plants will grow. And then episodes 5 and 6 was like, all right, let's just get rid of all this seed, let's uproot everything and plant in some new stuff. And it was done kind of half-assed, and so you get this weird plant mix hybrid thing. And the entire time I was thinking to myself, they debuted Cad Bane for this. So I don't know. I went on more of a rant than I was planning on doing so. But this is a show that I liked, but could have been 1,000 times better than what we eventually got. Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, I was very frustrated with Boba Fett as well, which is weird because episodes 5 and 6 were actually my favorite episodes that we got. I love seeing the Mandalorian stuff. The Mandalorian, I thought, was a more compelling character than Boba Fett, so I enjoyed seeing it on paper. The Darksaber was awesome. Him and his creed, I thought, was fascinating. It was cool seeing Grogu again and Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka and that play out. But I do agree. Why was this in Book of Boba Fett? It would have been fine if it was Mandalorian Season 3. Those were like the first 2 episodes, but why are they here? It was weird. It's like they forgot Boba Fett for 2 episodes. They just left him on Tatooine and just decided, hey, let's put Mando in there to draw more viewers, I guess. It was one of the most unbalanced shows I've seen in a while. Even the first 4 episodes, which I enjoyed them to an extent, like the flashback stuff in the first 4 episodes were great. Boba coming out of the Sarlacc pit, him training with the Tusken Raiders, the train heist, his shock when the Tuskens were slaughtered. Those were amazing sequences that strengthened his character, and I really respect what they set up. And I still like Boba Fett. I've said in previous podcasts, I was not a Boba Fett fan until Mandalorian Season 2. And it was great seeing a little bit of character growth, even though I felt like the show didn't know what to do overall, because I didn't enjoy the present timeline near as much. I didn't feel like there was a clear threat within what was set up, because was it the Hutts, or it could have been the Pikes? They set up Cad Bane at the end, and I'm like, aside from Cad Bane, which I love that character from other shows like the Clone Wars, it was cool seeing him in live action form, and the final showdown was awesome, but it was too little too late at the same time. Like, the finale was fun. It has great moments. I love seeing Boba ride a Rancor taking on robot droids, and I enjoyed seeing him and Mando team up. It was cool seeing Baby Yoda do his thing. There were some good aspects in the finale, but when you don't care about the threat, when you don't care about what was set up, it just becomes white noise. And that's what's frustrating, because the action was done well. I love what Robert Rodriguez does as an action director. I enjoy the visuals. I enjoyed the characters overall, except the street gang. Those were terrible additions. I didn't enjoy that one bit. But aside from that, there's just not much balance. It's one of the weirdest things I've experienced as a Star Wars fan, because it has moments of greatness, but it's sandwiched in between what were they thinking moments. Like, I don't fully understand. I don't really know who the fault with that of the series would be. I've seen some point the finger at Rodriguez because he had more control than he did on some of the Mandalorian episodes he directed, but I don't know who the fully fault for this, because you got Rodriguez, Dave Filoni, and Jon Favreau, who are great creators in their own right. This show just didn't fully work at the end of the day, and it's definitely a step down compared to stuff like The Mandalorian. I was overall pretty disappointed in Boba Fett. I still liked it, especially certain moments of it, but it was definitely a mess.
That is for certain. But it's looking like things might improve, because in May we're getting the ObiWan Show, and I am so excited because we're getting Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen back together, and Ewan McGregor's gone on record saying it was so much fun to make. I am beyond excited to see that show, of all the upcoming stuff, because I know we're getting an Obi-Wan show, an Ahsoka show, and an Andor show, and that last one I could personally care less over. But like Obi-Wan and Ahsoka are two of my favorite characters, and they're both getting standalone like TV shows. Bro, you could not ask for me for a better time to be a Star Wars fan than right now, just in terms of the stories that we're getting. And I guess one more note before we move on. Newest complaint on Star Wars Twitter is that people are getting all up in arms about this one scene where one of the street gang dudes is holding up Chrysanthemum and does a spin and gets the gun and fires. And I'm just like, you people will complain about anything, won't you? It's like,
yeah, oh, go ahead.
It's like you're not as concerned about Boba Fett disappearing from his own show for an episode and a half, but a character spins and you're like, that's it, that's the breaking point. It's like seriously, this is the sleepiest thing I've seen on the internet in quite some time.
Yeah, I watched that episode and I thought nothing of it when that character did the spinny flip thing. I didn't even care for the characters to begin with, the bike gang in general. And even people are like, the editing is bad. I'm like, it's just a guy doing a flip. And I'm like, really? That's what you're complaining about? I guess it's better than people complaining about the sequels nonstop and insulting others for their opinion. But of all the things to complain about, it's that.
Yeah,
I don't get Star Wars fans.
I am no fan of the sequels, but I try and complain about relevant stuff, not stupid stuff. This whole Spingate thing is a truly just stupid thing to complain about. One more note on the Boba Fett show before we move on to Jurassic World. I feel like you can describe the Book of Boba Fett as this. Robert Rodriguez setting up potentially interesting things, Bryce Dallas Howard and Dave Filoni coming down, burning the house down, and telling Robert Rodriguez, all right, you go figure it out. And Robert Rodriguez trying to piece together something tangible. Like, that's the best way I can describe this show.
Yeah, that one. It is so weird how they executed the show. I don't fully understand what happened behind the scenes. I will say on a positive note, I hope Bryce headlines a Star Wars show because her episode was fantastic. Whether whether in the Book of Boba Fett or you see this as The Mandalorian 2.5, her episode was easily the best directed of the bunch. So I would be down if she either headlined a Star Wars series or got to direct a Star Wars movie herself. I think she has the potential to do something really cool if given the reins to do so.
Absolutely. I was no fan of episode 5, but not because of Bryce Dallas Howard's directing, because she did a great job from a technical side of things. It was story issues. She did a great job. I hope that she gets more to do in that world because she crushed it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's move on to the Jurassic World trailer, and I thought this was okay. I've been kind of jaded with the Jurassic Park movies ever since Fallen Kingdom, which I wanted to just walk off the planet. That movie was so bad for a litany of things. The awful Trump jokes and just the twist at the end. My God, with the cloned girl and her releasing all the dinosaurs onto the world saying, I am like them. I'm like, what were you thinking? So, I don't know. It just feels like with Jurassic World, them bringing back the original cast is just a hollow attempt to be like, hey, people you know. It's just depressing. It really is.
I think we're going to disagree on the trailer because I loved the trailer. I am really excited to see what comes of this movie. I think it's awesome that we're getting the original cast back, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, for the first time since the original Jurassic Park. And it's cool seeing them blended with the cast of the new Jurassic World movies. I do have issues with Fallen Kingdom. I'm not saying it's a great movie by any means. It is a very flawed, messy movie in a lot of ways, some of which you've already brought up in your thoughts on the movie. The twist was awful with the clone girl, and the way they executed it, I was not a fan of. But with that said, I'm intrigued with where the story's going with dinosaurs on the loose everywhere. I think there's so much potential you could do with that. And there's so many shots in the trailers where I'm like, okay, they are really going for it. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do, seeing all these dinosaurs in different locations and parts of the world. I really like the shot where you see all these dinosaurs out in the field, and you see Chris Pratt on his horse. He's kind of like dino herding these dinosaurs. I thought that was. I'm kind of curious about that scene. That looks like it'll be fun. Of course, the movie could be an epic fail. I don't know. Well, let's have to watch the movie and find out. There have not been great Jurassic Park movies, I would argue, since the original Jurassic Park, which is a classic. Although I am a defender of The Lost World. I think that is a great sequel as well. I love what Spielberg was trying to do there. But some of the other films haven't been as good. I hate Jurassic Park 3. That was a dud of a movie, and you can tell they were making up stuff as they went along, and I just didn't care what they were going for there. Jurassic World was a fun reset. Definitely not as good as the original, but it was fun for what it is. Fallen Kingdom I would describe as definitely the most ambitious Jurassic Park film, but it's also a weird execution as well. I liked what they were setting up, but I'm not a fan of the payoff of Fallen Kingdom. And I haven't seen that film since theaters. And I'm like, I wasn't a fan of certain aspects, but it's admirable for what they were trying to do. But I'm intrigued to see this one. I hope it's really good. I'm more excited to see it now that I've seen the trailer and I've seen footage of the cast and I've seen footage of the dinosaurs and the visuals. I'm hoping it could be the best Jurassic Park film since the original. We'll see how that goes, but I'm really intrigued by this one. I wasn't as hyped on it before, and now I'm really hyped.
As usual, when it comes to new movies, I will keep an open mind, especially because Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's top 2 for me. It is fantastic. And I will be covering all the Jurassic Park movies leading up to Dominion, so stay tuned on the channel for that in the coming months. But I don't know, like Jurassic Park is so good, and the rest, I will defend The Lost World. The Lost World is very good. But outside of that, I have not seen Jurassic Park 3 in a hot minute. I've heard nothing but mediocre things, so I'm not looking forward to revisiting it. Jurassic World was okay. I like Chris Pratt as not only a human being, but also an actor, and so he was the best part. Bryce Dallas Howard was good in there as well, but I felt like the movie should not have made as much money as it did. It just felt like it was not worthy of $1 billion. And then, of course, Fallen Kingdom was just complete trash. Like, J.A. Bayona, for someone who directed a couple movies I really liked in The Impossible and A Monster Calls, to go from that to this, it just really, really sad. But I will give Dominion a chance. I mean, Sam Neill, I've gained a new respect for. He was one of the main villains in Peaky Blinders, which he was excellent in. Jeff Goldblum, we all know who he is. He is the man. And Laura Dern is an actress who is always good, but no one really talks about her. And she was nominated for, I believe, Marriage Story, and just everyone kind of dumped on her for it, which is just really sad because Laura Dern's a great actress. And so I'm hoping for the best with Dominion. However, I am preparing for and expecting the worst. That's where I will leave it.
All right.
Well, anyway, that is all for us. That is another episode in the books. What are you all's thoughts on Book of Boba Fett or Jurassic World Dominion? Leave them in the comments. We would love to read what you guys have to say. And Jacob, where can people find you?
Well, people can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can also watch my 2 YouTube channels, my main YouTube channels where I do all the movie reviews and other fun videos along the way, TV reviews, ranking videos, vlog videos, some upcoming content coming on my channel. Just before we started recording, I did a video on the Book of Boba Fett where I share my frustrations on the series. I got other videos that are dropping as well, a video on the Goonies. I'm doing a Peanuts video, reviewing the Valentine's Day special. I'm also reviewing what am I doing? Or for Christmas, I'm doing Juno and the Paycock, The Matrix Reloaded, and then my next 2 reviews for Superhero Saturdays and Celebrating Disney dropping this week will be for the Muppet movie on Celebrating Disney, and for Superhero Saturdays, I'm covering Batman Begins in excitement for the upcoming Batman movie. And then on my second channel, Storytime with Jacob, I do read-alongs and book reviews. I just recently finished Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And on my reading channel now, I'm currently going through the classic To Kill a Mockingbird, which I haven't read since freshman year of high school. So there's some exciting stuff coming on both channels.
Definitely check him out. They will both be linked in the description as well as his social media. And then as far as this channel goes, by the time this podcast is up, my review for Scott Pilgrim versus the World with my good friend Loretto over at the Suit Up Geeks was dropped after a bit of a delay. It was a lot of fun to make, so I hope you all enjoyed that. And then in the coming days, I'll be reviewing Batman Forever in honor of my Batman series to cover all the Batman movies that I have yet to talk about. And then I'll also be covering Uncharted. Please, God, let that be somewhat decent. As well as Dog, the new Channing Tatum movie. I hope that's good. And then next Sunday will be my first reaction to The Social Network, which a lot of people really like, and I'm watching for the first time. So here's to hoping that that's good.
All right, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on The Social Network, especially. That one is great.
Mm-hmm. And well, if you all like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below. And if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way, when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. That's Jacob Martin. My name is Ryan Cam. We'll see you in the next one, folks. Take care.